Sam Darnold was once the NFL's biggest joke. Labeled a bust, mocked for seeing ghosts, and written off by two teams, his career seemed over. But in Minnesota, he's found redemption, and it's one of the most inspiring stories in sports. From being hailed as a franchise savior to becoming a symbol of chaos and failure, Darnold's journey is one of extremes. Drafted third overall by the New York Jets in 2018, he carried the weight of a city desperate for a hero. But over the next few years, he became a cautionary tale, a quarterback whose promise vanished before it could fully bloom. The infamous Ghosts moment against the Patriots in 2019 seemed to define his career. On a hot mic, he admitted to seeing ghosts, a phrase that became a meme of his supposed ineptitude. By the time the Jets moved on, many had written him off as a bust. Yet, fast forward to 2024, and Sam Darnold is no longer a punchline. Now leading the Minnesota Vikings, he's rewriting his narrative not as the quarterback burdened by expectations, but as the unyielding underdog who defied the odds. But how did he go from being the NFL's biggest disappointment to leading the Vikings to their best season in decades? The answer lies in a journey of resilience, redemption, and a second chance no one saw coming. Sam Darnold's rise to prominence was anything but conventional. Growing up in Southern California, the young athlete wasn't even a quarterback during his first year of high school. He played wide receiver and linebacker, positions where his physicality and intelligence shone. But fate intervened during his sophomore year when the starting quarterback was injured mid-game. With no one else to turn to, the coach handed the ball to Darnold. What followed was nothing short of remarkable. Darnold not only finished the game but led his team to an improbable comeback. It was the moment he first tasted the thrill of being a quarterback, a position that demanded leadership, precision, and unrelenting confidence. By his senior year, Darnold had cemented his place as one of the most promising high school quarterbacks in the nation. He amassed nearly 3,000 passing yards and over 40 total touchdowns that season, drawing attention from major college programs. Despite his success, Sam was never the loudest player on the field. He wasn't a vocal leader. Instead, he led by action, often staying after practice to fine-tune his mechanics or help younger teammates. For those who watched him closely, his talent was undeniable. But there was also a quiet vulnerability in his approach, a hunger to prove himself to those who doubted him. When Darnold arrived at the University of Southern California, his journey seemed destined for greatness. After redshirting his freshman year, he exploded onto the scene as the Trojan starter in 2016. In his first full season, he led the team to 9 straight victories, including a legendary performance in the Rose Bowl against Penn State. Darnold threw for over 450 yards and 5 touchdowns in a thrilling 52-49 victory that instantly placed him among college football's elite. As confetti rained down on the field, the young quarterback stood tall, his name now spoken in the same breath as the sports greats. But for all the highs, there were lows lurking in the shadows. The following season at USC, Darnold struggled with consistency, throwing 13 interceptions. Critics began to question his decision-making, a flaw that would follow him to the NFL. Yet, the promise remained. By the time the 2018 NFL Draft arrived, he was still considered a top prospect, drawing comparisons to Andrew Luck. The New York Jets, desperate for a savior, made him their 3rd overall pick, setting the stage for what should have been a transformative era for the franchise. The promise, however, quickly unraveled. Darnold's time with the Jets became a study in dysfunction. The team was plagued by coaching changes, an unstable offensive line, and a lack of weapons around him. It wasn't just football, it was chaos. By 2019, a hot mic caught Darnold muttering, "I'm seeing ghosts," during a disastrous game against the Patriots. That moment, raw and unfiltered, became a symbol of his struggles, mocked by fans and analysts alike. It seemed to define his career, but it was only the beginning of his journey. The confident young quarterback from California seemed to vanish overnight, replaced by a player consumed by doubt. But this is not where his story ends. Sam Darnold's fall from grace was only the beginning of a journey that would test his resolve in ways he never imagined. As he walked away from New York, carrying the weight of unmet expectations, one question burned in his mind. Was this who he was destined to be, or could he still rewrite his story? The NFL has a way of humbling even the most promising talents. After the Jets gave up on their one-time franchise quarterback, it felt like the league had moved on. Carolina became the next chapter, but it was far from the fresh start many had hoped for. Instead, it felt like a slow unraveling of what little confidence remained. Early flashes of brilliance in the Panthers' 3-0 start during the 2021 season gave way to injuries, turnovers, and the sobering reality of yet another franchise unable to unlock its players' potential. Each interception, each injury, and each loss chipped away at the player who had once lit up the Rose Bowl under the brightest lights. Every athlete dreams of glory, but what happens when that dream begins to slip away? For a moment, it seemed like the dream was over. The Panthers moved on, and by the time free agency rolled around, there were no starting jobs left for him. Entering the 2023 season, his only offer was to back up Brock Purdy in San Francisco. There, under the shadow of one of the most stable organizations in the league, he found something surprising: clarity. Without the pressure of being the guy, there was space to breathe, to learn, and to rebuild piece by piece the confidence that had been shattered in New York and Carolina. Watching from the sidelines at 4-9 practices, there was something different about him. Observing a Kyle Shanahan offense is like attending a masterclass in quarterback mechanics and decision-making. Slowly, the game began to slow down for him again. In one brief start during the regular season, he showcased a glimpse of what he had learned: quick reads, decisive throws, and the calm of someone who no longer felt the weight of the world on his shoulders. But redemption is not a gift. It demands sacrifice and persistence, and for those who watched closely, the fire in his eyes had not dimmed. Somewhere, buried beneath years of criticism and self-doubt, there was still a belief he could do this. It wasn't about proving the doubters wrong anymore. It was about proving something to himself. When the call came from Minnesota in the offseason, it wasn't an offer drenched in glory. A one-year deal worth $10 million to be a bridge quarterback while rookie J.J. McCarthy learned the ropes. Yet, this move would become the spark for something extraordinary. The franchise wasn't betting on his past. They were taking a chance on his resilience. Much like how you, watching this video right now, might take a chance on hitting that like button and subscribing to uncover the rest of this incredible story. Because what happened next in Minnesota is nothing short of a football miracle. Hope is a fragile thing in the NFL. For the Minnesota Vikings, the offseason had been marred by uncertainty. The team had pinned its future on rookie quarterback J.J. McCarthy, a first-round pick with sky-high potential. But fate had other plans. A torn meniscus during training camp sidelined the rookie for the entire season, leaving the Vikings scrambling for answers. Suddenly, the one-year bridge quarterback became the centerpiece of their offense. Few outside of the organization believed it could work, and the whispers of another lost Viking season grew louder with every passing week. What followed was nothing short of extraordinary. From the first snap of the season, the Vikings' offense buzzed with a new energy. Darnold, once weighed down by failure, now played with a freedom that electrified the field. It was as if the ghosts of his past had finally been exorcised. Minnesota's head coach, Kevin O'Connell, crafted a system that didn't ask him to be perfect, it asked him to be smart. Quick reads, play action passes, and designed rollouts allowed him to play to his strengths. It wasn't about erasing the past, but about building something new, something sustainable. The team rallied around him, and his connection with Justin Jefferson became the heartbeat of the offense. In Week 2, they unleashed a 97-yard touchdown pass, a lightning strike that left the crowd in awe and signaled that something special was brewing in Minnesota. The crowd roared as if years of frustration had been lifted in an instant. This was not the quarterback Vikings fans expected, but it was the one they suddenly found themselves believing in. With each game, he continued to shatter expectations, culminating in a historic mid-season stretch where the Vikings went undefeated for 9 straight weeks. Confidence, once elusive, was now unmistakable. Post-game press conferences painted a different picture of a player who had spent years dodging criticism. Now there were smiles, laughter, and an undeniable swagger. The numbers told a story of resurgence: a 70% completion rate, over 26 touchdowns, and a passer rating rivaling the best in the league. But the statistics were only part of the equation. The Vikings had found something intangible, a leader who refused to quit, even when the world had already counted him out. Yet, for all the progress, questions lingered. Was this newfound success real? Or was it a fleeting moment in an otherwise unpredictable career? With the playoffs looming, a fan base starved for its first ever Super Bowl victory had begun to dream. But dreams are fragile, and as the postseason approached, a question hung over the entire organization. Could this quarterback, once written off as a bust, truly deliver when it mattered most? Greatness in the NFL is not just about talent. It is about overcoming doubt, both from the outside world and from within. For years, that doubt had defined Sam Darnold. The pressure to succeed in New York, the constant carousel of coaches, and the relentless criticism had left scars deeper than any interception ever could. By the time he arrived in Minnesota, those scars were still fresh, but something had shifted. This was not just about football anymore. This was about rediscovering who he was as a person, not just as a player. Rebuilding confidence wasn't easy. Early in the season, there were moments when the old doubts crept in: a missed throw, a dropped pass. But this time, Darnold didn't let those mistakes define him. Instead, he responded with poise, turning potential disasters into opportunities for growth. Instead, he showed resilience, a trait that had eluded him in his earlier years. Each snap became a small victory, a chance to prove to himself that he belonged on that field. Teammates noticed the shift. This was not the same quarterback they had watched stumble in highlight reels from New York or Carolina. This was someone who believed in his ability to lead, to inspire, and to win. Much of this transformation can be traced back to Kevin O'Connell's system. It wasn't just the X's and O's, it was the culture he created. The Vikings head coach gave his quarterback permission to fail, a freedom that had been denied to him for most of his career. By leaning into short, high-percentage throws early in games, the offense allowed its quarterback to build confidence one play at a time. The success snowballed, and with every touchdown pass, the player who once saw ghosts began to look like a field general. Off the field, the growth was just as evident. A once guarded personality became more open, more relaxed. In interviews, there were moments of reflection, even humor, as he spoke about his journey. He acknowledged the pain of those early years but didn't dwell on it. Instead, he used it as fuel. You go through all that, and it either breaks you or it makes you stronger, he said after one midseason win. The maturity in his voice was unmistakable, the confidence hard-earned. Yet, the playoffs bring a different kind of pressure. Minnesota fans have seen hope dashed before, their dreams crushed under the weight of expectation. This time felt different, but there were still whispers. Could this quarterback, reborn in the regular season, carry that same poise into the cauldron of the postseason? With the weight of the Vikings' history and his own past failures bearing down on him, the ultimate test loomed. Would redemption come full circle, or would the ghosts of the past find him once more? Legacies in the NFL are built on moments. For Sam Darnold, the moments that had once defined him were the ones he longed to forget. The interceptions, the losses, the sideline confession that became a meme. But now, in Minnesota, new moments were being etched into the history books, moments of triumph, resilience, and redemption. The Vikings' regular season success had been more than just a feel-good story. It had reignited the hopes of a fan base that had waited decades for a championship. Yet, the weight of expectations is a double-edged sword. For the first time in his career, the quarterback wasn't just surviving, he was thriving. The offense clicked like a finely tuned machine. with every pass threading a narrative of what was possible when belief replaces doubt. Each connection with Justin Jefferson, each perfectly executed play-action fake, added to the growing sense that this team could go all the way. But this wasn't just about the numbers. It was about the leadership he had found within himself, the kind that could rally a team and inspire belief even in the darkest moments. In the locker room, the tone was different. Players spoke about their quarterback with genuine admiration. "He's not the same guy you saw in New York," one lineman said after a hard-fought win. "He's the guy we trust with everything." Coaches echoed that sentiment, marveling at how he had taken command of an offense that wasn't supposed to be his. Even as the season progressed and the stakes grew higher, he remained calm, focused, and unshaken. But no story of redemption is complete without a moment of doubt. And for this team, that doubt came during a late-season matchup against a playoff rival. The Vikings fell behind early, the offense struggling to find its rhythm for the first time in weeks. The crowd's nervous energy was palpable, and the whispers of old fears crept in. On the sideline, the quarterback sat quietly, reviewing plays, his face unreadable. But when the offense took the field again, there was no hesitation. He led a comeback that will be talked about for years, a clutch drive in the final 2 minutes, capped off with a perfectly placed touchdown pass that sent the stadium into a frenzy. Still, the question remained, was this the peak, or was it just the beginning? The playoffs loomed large, and with them, the opportunity to do what no Vikings quarterback had done before, bring home a Super Bowl championship. Yet, lurking in the shadows was the uncertainty of his future. His one-year contract meant that every snap could be his last in purple and gold. With rookie J.J. McCarthy waiting in the wings and front office decisions looming, the end of the season promised not only high stakes on the field, but also off it. Would he cement his place as the franchise's future? Or was this magical season simply a fleeting chapter in a career defined by reinvention? When you believe in stories like this one, it's impossible not to hit that like button and subscribe to join the journey. Because stories like this remind us of why we love sports. They are about so much more than the game. The road to redemption is never linear. It's full of detours, setbacks, and moments where the destination seems impossibly far. For those who have watched this quarterback's journey, it's been a story of resilience that resonates far beyond the football field. He was written off, doubted, and at times ridiculed. Yet, there is something uniquely powerful about rising from the ashes of failure and finding not just success, but purpose. Every throw, every decision, every hard-fought yard became a testament to his quiet defiance. No longer burdened by the need to prove others wrong, Darnold was now playing for something deeper than dreams he had carried since his days as a kid in Southern California. There is a rare beauty in watching someone rediscover what was almost lost. And with each game, you could see it, confidence replacing hesitation, belief drowning out doubt. The fans in Minnesota didn't just witness a season. They experienced a revival. It wasn't just about the wins or the statistics. It was about the hope that this team could be the one to break the long-standing curse of heartbreak. The quarterback at the center of it all became more than just a player. He became a symbol of what's possible when you refuse to let failure define you. He wasn't the strongest arm in the league or the flashiest playmaker, but he became something far more valuable. A leader who believed in himself and made others believe in him too. The future remains unwritten. Whether the Vikings achieve Super Bowl glory or fall short, Darnold's story will endure. It's not just about football, it's about resilience, redemption, and the power of believing in yourself when the world has stopped believing in you. And as the lights fade on this season and the next chapter begins, one thing is clear. This is not the story of a bust or a disappointment. This is the story of resilience, of redemption, and of a man who turned ghosts into glory.